What do you know? Ready to go racing? That right here is a 5-speed manual transmission. It'll take you from 0 to 60 in about the time it takes for me to cook popcorn. But that's because we haven't installed 2 to 3 spoolie boys on this bad boy. Are you not recording?
I am sorry.
Oh, no, it's all right. Welcome back, everybody, to the second video of the Mazda Miata Exo Kart series. Last video we did walk through the Miata, kind of talking about some of the things I did to it. We have more, of course, to cover. I'm covering the entire project kind of near the end of the build, and there's a few more things that we are going to do to the vehicle just to get it done. Now, this is not like your standard early 2000s car show where I sit here and talk about our sponsored items, because we do not have any. But I will talk about the cheap eBay filters, the other cheap components I have found in order to build this to its fullest. We did have our primary garage door light cut off there, so the video will be slightly darker. So starting off with the Miata, some of the things that we need to do to it is changing the filter, because there is not one. Now, I might stand up here and tell you, by adding this filter compared to the stock filter, we are going to add a significant amount of horsepower by freeing up that airflow. But considering we're going from no airflow to a restricted filter, what I will tell you is we now have a more reliable powertrain. That being said, fewer bugs in the Arkansas air will get sucked into it. So we'll go ahead and throw this on there. It is going to be a little tight. This is quite a large filter, but it was the only cylindrical filter I could find. I'm going to go ahead and open it up. It is the only cylindrical filter I could find. It is a little crushed, but we will go ahead and tack that onto the vehicle here in a little bit. I was told by my camera crew not to too much, but this is in a bag and I want to keep it that way. This is a new master cylinder for the clutch. The other one is actually working great, and it always has been. But the reason we do want to replace it is the lid on that one does not exist as same as the air filter. Next, before I start on this one, I would like to say that these are Mazda Miata brake cables, and yes, the car does have both of them, but one of them does not work. And unfortunately, I did want to go ahead and replace both of them, so it will take a little bit longer than just a replacement here, but I believe the right rear wheel does not have any braking potential at all. So when you use your parking brake, rely on one wheel only. Burnouts and donuts are still possible due to the lack of weight, but of course, if you want to rip that e-brake up and go through a corner, it's not going to be as spontaneous as you may hope. We do not have a welded diff on the car either, so that being said, pulling one handbrake is not going to lock both wheels up. You still have to have one side spinning. We may eventually go to a welded diff type situation, just not yet. I haven't been under the car hardly at all, besides running new wires and cables for the speedometer. That is the digital one that we did add. And just like those early 2000s car shows, we'll be right back after this quick message. Is your engine weak, lacking power, and doesn't purr like a kitten? Well, you need to get yourself one of these. This spoolie boy, located on the left or right side of your engine, will produce enough power to make your grandmother go, "Wow!" How much did that cost? Well, I'll just tell you what, it won't cost her retirement, because this bad boy can be found on eBay for the low cost of most eBay turbo kits. $800 can blow your engine straight from the floor of this garage to the roof of your house. Next part that we do want to take care of on the vehicle is my wiring. I do not have a master power switch on the car. I do have a plug. I unplug and replug. That was kind of just a temporary safety, as I did not have a heavy enough gauge plug for master power. It does come with this group of wires here. These will be for the ignition wires and master power, so that'll help us out a lot. This is actually something that this car is missing, because I do have it hardwired, as you saw in that starting video. I actually just took that wire, rerouted it inside the car for the ignition. This is a relay, and this relay will help us not burn things down. Burning things down is not advisable. Right, Kitty? She'll be fine. This eBay switch panel will replace my metal panel I made myself here. The idea of this one was to look sleek, clean, but it really just kind of ended up looking pretty rough. These two holes were drilled in exactly the right spots, but this center hole, the drill bit walked up on me a little bit and made it a little higher than the others, but fortunately it's still symmetrical. So I'm able to use it temporarily, but neither of these are master power. We have our switch here on the left, which is the fan speed, or fan controller, so it turns the fan on for the radiator, which I don't mind running all the time because it is damn hot outside. Middle one here is our starter. One here on the right is the power for all of our headlights, taillights, brake lights, just kind of this master power that kind of runs everything here. That being said, none of those were the master power. So the master power is actually these two wires I like to touch together a little bit. Ooh, Jesus, don't do that. All right, so that's why we have this here, so I can have my master power, and with a quick shut off, I won't be starting my car and running anywhere anytime soon. Also, none of these are toggle switches, so that start switch, which I did not click and was lied to, that is not a toggle switch. While it does toggle up in the middle, it is always on in center position, but I have wired it in a way that it should not be, which is actually kind of shocking. Literally in some cases. This here start button is momentary. So this will be our new start stop feature. We will keep our fan control here, and we will adjust our second headlight switch right there. And then this third one will be free for any other power accessories we may want to use. We do have ignition over here. So by turning this on, I do have my check engine light, which is now visible to the naked eye. While hanging out here in the cabin, the spacious cabin, I noticed the seats are very comfortable. I do enjoy my time here in these. They do fit me, anybody bigger. So these are Bride Lomax, and they are very comfortable. I have a 34, 35 waist, or 32, 34, 32 to 33, 32. I don't know how fat I am. It's getting worse. 32 waist, and they're pretty snug. I've had someone with a 34 get in here, and they're okay with it. Belts are obviously pretty thin, so it's not too big of a deal. Any bigger than that, I would not recommend these seats. There are two major changes here in this section of the car. First being, this is the computer, which is normally located behind me, down on the floorboards. I want to put this up here, kind of under the glass, behind the dashboard, where it'll be safe from any tampering that you may see in a standard Miata. That kind of gets those things out of the way, kind of organize the wires up here. And then the second thing is this fuse panel here. This fuse panel is normally located underneath the hood on the right side. And so I've actually pulled all that in here under this area. I'm trying to limit the exposure these cables have to the outer side elements, especially driving without a hood or without any sort of major protection up there. Another thing that I did move down here is there is the diagnostic plug. That is bolted down here now. So any of your diagnostics, those 10 pins, you're sticking the paper clips in to run your check engine light. Makes it a lot easier to diagnose if you can stick your paper clip in it and then look at your blinking light to get your check engine lights. So that definitely is a benefit of moving that up here. But all of the major electronics are moved forward and up to this point. I have a very, very few wires that actually go to the back of the car and the front of the car, besides all those engine controls. So I'm gonna go ahead and clip this back on. Last but not least, we have a few extra bolts here. Those are going to hold the alternator in place, fix our squeaky belt issue, as well as some spacers here. One of those, it will be for the air filter to kind of hold it up a little higher, as the bolt that I currently do have on the system doesn't hold it quite straight. This is the old bolt, actually far too long, and they were using the equivalent of about 3 of these spacers between this bolt and the alternator. So it was a little loose and it actually lost its nut, so I'm not sure exactly where that went, but we do have our replacements. Last but not least, what is the other word for them? Sway bars. We do have new anti-roll bars and sway bars, both being the same. For the vehicle, this is a rear, I believe, and this one, is a front. Yes, this is a front. This thing's almost as big as the one I have on the Audi. It's actually insane. If you do not want any sway at all, this is what I would recommend using. This will slow the vehicle down significantly in the quarter mile, as it does weigh nearly 12 pounds. I think the wheels on this weigh less than that. So might be something to consider. One issue we do have with the Miata right now is the front sway bar is missing a front left control point, basically the brackets that are holding that sway bar in place. While they do have the grommets, this one is actually completely loose, so you're getting a lot of flop on the left side. But we do intend on either creating new brackets there, bolting those on. I do not want to weld them on because I want them to be removable in case I want to upgrade or downgrade the roll bar into the future. Another thing that we do not have parts for yet, but we do want to order, is the front control arms on this car. Mostly the bushings are a little worn, a little degraded, so we want to go ahead and replace those items because it'll tighten up that front suspension, make cornering a little easier. Right now it does understeer a little bit. It is a surprise to me as well, as there is no weight in the rear of this car and all the weight in the front. It does understeer and it does try to slide forward on you, and that is your limitation. It really, honestly, a modern Chevy Cruze might be able to corner a little better than this if we don't replace those sway bars. The car does need alignment. I will tell you, I showed a photo of this car to a tire place up here, and they said they would not work on it. No surprise to me. We may not be able to get it aligned professionally, so we may have to learn how to do that. There may be a whole video on how to align your wheels and tires. Maybe. Someone send me an alignment kit, because I don't have one. Many of you may be wondering why we have a turbocharger sitting here. Well, as we all know, and as all the Mazda Miata lovers know, the only way to drive a Miata is if it is force inducted. This turbocharger may be the turbocharger we use. This is out of a 2-liter Mitsubishi engine. I used to drive a Mitsubishi Lancer that was naturally aspirated with the hopes of eventually turbocharging it, until a turbocharged Honda Civic decided to end those dreams by killing itself and my car in a rear-end collision. This turbocharger did not end up on the Mitsubishi and may end up on this vehicle. I believe this one only has 10 to 15,000 miles on it, so it's a great turbocharger. It does need new hose fittings and bushings, which is pretty easy to come by, and I've always really wanted to fabricate my own headers for a vehicle like this. So that being said, we do have the primary exhaust port. I can clock this any direction I need. Technically, an exhaust port just like this with the intake going over the top of the engine to a radiator sitting above the engine might be a kind of a cool design. Of course, maybe clocking this facing downwards out and around to a intercooler would probably be the best way. The other thing I want to do is I do want to try to turbocharge this, maybe without doing a Mega Squirt kit, but knowing that I do need to get bigger injectors if I do want to pump up the power. I may end up going ahead and doing that Mega Squirt kit if I can find a used one for a decent price. I definitely don't want to spend a fortune on this project, because if I spend, or if I decide to spend more than $3,000 or $4,000 on this, I might go with a naturally aspirated K20, K22, and we'll see if maybe that is in the wheelhouse. I do have a coworker with an Acura who would love to donate it to this cause, I'm sure. He definitely does not, but he should. One thing I did say I'd do is I would replace, where is it? Due to the lack of air filter, I do want to take the time to install one here. It should only take a moment. Again, this is like those 90s TV shows where we do 30 minutes of chatter. I'm gonna replace one part and we're gonna call it a day. So let me just go ahead and get that done so we can end this video. I'm just gonna take my 11mm wrench that is not specific to this vehicle anymore. I'm gonna stick it up here. We're gonna pull that. We're gonna make sure it's going the right way. This here bracket holds on this tube. The reason I want to take this off is because, well, the tube goes too low and I can't get the air filter under it quite a way. So we're gonna use this here small spacer right on this bad boy and lift it up, get that angle of the dangle right, and then slap that filter on there and reduce the horsepower of this vehicle by at least 1 or 2. All right, there we go. Take that out of there. So here's our nut. Take that, I'm gonna lift this tube up a little bit. Oh geez. All right, pull it up, and here's what it looks like. I'm gonna take this spacer, I'm gonna slide it right there. Kind of looks good there. I'm gonna take it, we're gonna rotate it back down. I'm gonna stick it in there like that. While we're doing that, I'm gonna take this other bolt, I'm gonna put it down here just to hold it in place so that doesn't come back out while we do our final adjustments. I'm gonna take this, then we're gonna do screw side down. I'm gonna lift it I'm going to slip it in there. Just the tip of it. Just the tip. All right, there we are. And we're going to take our screwdriver. I'm going to give it a couple twists.
Look at that. Get up in there real close. All right, look at that.
All right, where'd the cat go? All right, we got the cat. All right, that's on there. Pretty good. It looks like this does slip off a little bit, so you may want to be careful when you're doing your install, but it seems to be in a good shape. Now, as you can tell, this is a little loose, so we're going to go ahead and take our time, switch the direction on our ratchet wrench, stick it back up in here, and tighten it back down a little bit. And by tightening this, we are tightening the strap around the tube. So a couple turns here, we should be good to go. That is on there pretty good, but let's get a couple more good turns. We should have put a little bit of a spacer down there, or a washer, but I think that is as good as gold, and we should be set. All right, now that we got the filter installed, I would like to note that the AEM emblem on this side of the filter is upside down. So we do want to take our time, flip that back over, and install it correctly. Just take a second and just speed it up really fast here. Now let's just take a moment to appreciate the sheer size of this monster and understand that this Miata pulls less air than a Honda Civic, and understand that this right here will reduce the flow by almost nothing. Thanks for watching.